Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors! On this episode of Toys All the Way, we'll be taking a look at another character from the most recent wave of vintage collection figures for 2025, the Mandalorian Super Commando from the Ahsoka series. Welcome back everyone and channel members. So here we have yet again another vintage collection delivery, and it seems like Amazon, GameStop, and Hasbro Pulse are all starting to ship out this wave. So hopefully you get yours soon, and I'm excited to add this one to the collection. I'm a big fan of Mandalorians, but this is also one that's not exactly super exciting because we did see this figure in the past, originally as a Clone Wars release here, and there's really not much going on here. It's a very simple repaint, and yeah, not too much going on, but I am happy to see this character from the Ahsoka flashback scenes. And yeah, with all that being said and done, don't forget to smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, or even become a channel member, and let's take a closer look at the packaging and figure. Taking a look at our vintage style packaging, we have the Star Wars and Ahsoka logo nicely displayed up top, followed by a Mandalorian Super Commando on an orange name pill color. We have a really nice image of the character on Mandalore, looking really good with his red armor, rifle, and the Kenner logo down below. And then we have this nice fully articulated figure displayed on a bubble. But I will note that something is a little bit of a shame here when it comes to accuracy, and it's a bit unfortunate that Hasbro did not go the extra mile to tool up a new belt and holster that's seen on this card back image. On the back, he is VC 353 in the line, Mandalorian Super Commando, and we have a small description of the character, followed by the Vintage Collection logo, and additional images of the card and figure. So once again, we're adding another decent card back to our Ahsoka lineup, and it continues to grow, and I am just a big fan of this series, so definitely happy to add this one to the collection. Taking a look at the Mandalorian Super Commando out of the packaging and focusing on the helmet and paint applications, you can see they've been done rather well. Lots of different clean lines and no overspill, which is always great. We want to see nice, consistent quality control here, and yeah, they've done a pretty decent job. Taking a look at the rest of the figure, lots of sculpting and other paint work that looks clean, and yeah, for the most part, looking pretty good. Nothing too different here, but we will bring in the other one for a comparison in just a little bit. Moving on to the articulation, this is a figure many of us are very familiar with in the vintage collection, but if you're new to collecting, this is definitely a good one to add to your collection. Now, it was originally released as a Clone Wars figure, but they're repainting it here for that Ahsoka Series flashback. It does have very excellent ball jointed hips, so you'll get great range of motion there. You have a swivel at the thigh, you got a hinge at the knee, which is great. It goes a little bit past 90 degrees, and then you have rocker ankles. So this figure will definitely do some fantastic lower leg posing, and just all around it's a pretty good one to pose in general. So moving on to the upper body, it does have a nice torso crunch here, which is great. You can rotate that 360 degrees. It does have hinges at the shoulders, elbows, and even wrists, which is always fantastic. And then you have this soft plastic armor here, which does not hinder any of that range of motion. So really good stuff when it comes to posing this figure. It does unfortunately not have great head articulation. It can tilt downward pretty well, but when it comes to tilting up, unfortunately, a lot of vintage collection figures don't really have a great range of motion there. Now you do have a removable jetpack. It has a standardized peg system, which works on a lot of these recent releases, so you can swap out jetpacks and stuff like that if you're into kit bashing Mandalorians or any type of figures. But yeah, all in all, a really good release. You got some great paint application and sculpting here on the armor. It unfortunately doesn't really have any weathering or chipping on the armor plate, which I'll show with the previous release in just a moment. But yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit of weathering there. But yeah, overall, a good figure to add to the collection. And who doesn't like more Mandalorians? Taking a look at the Mandalorian Super Commando compared to the previous Clone Wars release, you can see they are very, very similar, but have a few minor differences, most notably in the paint applications. So the version from Ahsoka clearly has a different flight suit. It's a much darker brown color, which is actually pretty nice in my opinion. I do like how that looks. And then the armor in general just has a lot more black on it, and it's missing any of those silver, paint applications that are supposed to be, chips or weathering. So that's a bit unfortunate because I do like how that looks here. You also can see some silver paint applications on his gauntlet, which are a nice touch, but the Ahsoka version is just a straight up black gauntlet. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I do think it's interesting that they opted to do silver on his like knee armor and his holsters. I think that looks pretty cool. It adds a little bit of, flair to this figure, but if you're going to do that paint application, it would be nice to, maybe do a little bit of weathering on his armor, because it does look clean on that chest plate. Taking a look at the back of the figure, their jetpacks are similar, but of course a little bit different. You do have, similar like casting of plastic color here, but this one has some red detail on there, but then it's missing, the silver at the top, kind of like where the rockets are. And yeah, I don't know, not much else going on here in terms of differences on the back, although you can see on the helmet there is a little bit more of red paint application on the Clone Wars version. And then other than that, not much else going on other than the shoulder armor. You can see that they opted to give this one like spikes on it back in the Clone Wars release, and then this one is the cleaner version. And then I will point out that the plastic that they used on the pistols is ever so slightly different. This one's a little bit shinier on the Ahsoka release, and yeah, other than that, very, very similar. Now, I personally do like the Ahsoka Series version a little bit. I do like the darker flight suit, and I'm always happy to add more Mandalorians to my collection. The Mandalorian Super Commando is an absolutely stunning figure when displayed in a fighting stance. The figure is fully capable of achieving a wide variety of action poses, and due to the flawless hip articulation and rocker ankles, it requires little to no effort. Naturally, the Super Commando comes fully loaded with all the modern articulation that one will need during the siege of Mandalore, such as ball-jointed hips, hinges at the shoulders, elbows, knees, wrists, and lastly, rocker ankles, all of which allow the figure to easily engage with all of the weapons. And while the pistols are rather tiny, the Super Commando is able to securely grip the smaller blasters due to their design. And when paired with rocker ankles, running and shooting is no problem for this figure as it battles for Mandalore. This, combined with some decent paint applications and detail throughout, make for a fearsome addition to any collection. An absolute must-have for your Ahsoka flashback display. Although it has to be said that the inclusion of a new belt and holster that matched the card back image would have made this release all the more better. I hope you've enjoyed this video and taking a look at this latest addition to our vintage collection shelf displays, the Mandalorian Super Commando from the Ahsoka series. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget to smash a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is always greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.